back to the Solution Summit. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. We'll take the spotlight off Dave. Welcome back again. I'm Chris Cargill with Washington Policy Center. It's great to be back with all of you. We've reached the tail end of our event today, but before we go at the top of the hour, we wanted to talk a little bit with you about a new campaign. I guess it's somewhat new. It seems like we've been working on it forever now. But a campaign that we launched, WPC, last year called Free Markets Destroy. The reason why we launched this campaign is because our board and our staff, of course, was very concerned about the direction our country was headed, specifically with the youngest generations, millennials, Gen Zs, and how they felt about the future of capitalism in our country. As you know, many of them wanted to take a closer look at socialism, and we're leaning towards socialist ideas. We decided that we were going to fight back on that and try to reach them with a different message. Now, this has been done before, where you have different capitalism type ads be run, or a campaign to try to tell young people about how great capitalism is, red, white, and blue, America's great. But unfortunately, those type of messages don't work with young people anymore. And we came to realize that when we started to get putting together the pieces for this campaign. What young people really want is to move fast. They want to fix what's broken. They want to destroy things that are in their way. And the irony to all of this is that that is what the free market does best. The free market can destroy the bad and replace it with something even better. Think about your cell phone. That cell phone used to weigh 10 or 15 pounds 30 years ago, would have a battery life maybe of 10 minutes, and you couldn't do nearly as much with it as you can today. And now almost every person has a cell phone in the palm of their hand that has more computing power than the first Apollo mission. So the free market really can be the catalyst to change a lot of the things that we as a society love to hate. I want to bring in a couple of people to talk a little bit about this today. My first guest is Marissa Gaston, who's our Young Professionals Director at WPC. She has been a crucial part of this campaign for the last year or so, as we've tried to target more millennials and Gen Zs. So Marissa, welcome. Looks like you're on mute. There you go.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about, you talk with millennials, you talk with Gen Zs all the time. Tell us a little bit about what they're thinking and kind of their reaction to this, not only our campaign about free markets, but also just capitalism in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's really a revolutionary bent that's present in the millennial and Gen Z generations that I would say is historically present traditionally in generations when they are younger, but that is especially pronounced in millennials and Gen Z since we are so very technologically connected, more so than ever before. We see the injustices of the world in real time via social media, and there's such a tremendous desire for change, to actualize that change now. There's a lack of patience with the notion of kind of more slow, steady, institutionalized change. And luckily, few things move as fast as the free market. So I think one of the tremendous successes of the Free Markets Destroy campaign has been in the framing of the free markets as the revolutionary forces that they are. And that's really, I think, captured fantastically well in the term creative destruction, which originally came from the Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter in 1942. And just that framing, that presentation, and offering free markets as this force for destruction and revolution to millennials and Gen Z has been so positive and really well received.
What's interesting, and I know you know this, and I've told others this as well, is that there's a completely different response to this campaign depending on what age you are and what demographic you are. If you are perhaps an older supporter like myself, you might have a little bit of skepticism with this campaign. If you're among the younger generations, you really like this campaign. You lean into this campaign. And people ask me all the time, what's the most surprising thing about Free Markets Destroy? And I tell them that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, just the rapidity with which markets move, the power of innovation, and that dynamic creative destruction that millennials and Gen Z, when presented with this campaign, they can really get on board with.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring in Maia Espinoza, who works with our communications team at WPC, is also with the the executive director of the Center for Latino Leadership. Did I get that right, Maia?
You got it.
Absolutely. All right. So from your perspective, tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on this campaign, what you think the positives are, perhaps how different demographics are responding to it. And then I'll bring in Ryan Green of Ironlight, who can kind of give us some of the results of what we're seeing in the online, the different online venues that we have.
Yeah, well, definitely nothing's more important than the actual results. But I can tell you anecdotally, when I first saw this campaign was actually on a billboard in my neighborhood. And I was, I looked at it and was like, I understood it right away because I think it was hunger. Free markets destroy hunger. And I was like, that is so cool. I just thought it was awesome. So that was my, first experience with this campaign. But now being able to work for the Policy Center and kind of see some of the idea behind it and, what the intended goals are, I think it's such a almost risky idea to pursue. But, that's what ends up working. That's what ends up either, demonstrating those results or showing that, this is completely the wrong direction and it's backfiring. I don't think it's backfiring at all. I think we'll see it, truth be told, in the results, but it's the perfect way, I think, to capture the attention of, a generation of people whose attention is very short, pulled in many, many directions. And it's exactly, that kind of almost backhanded negativity, reverse psychology that draws you in and makes you curious. As a member of a generation that grew up, with Google developing and at your fingertips, we want to find out more for ourselves. And certainly as we become more informed about how search engines, are very much designed to confirm our own biases, it's important for us to continue to search out and seek out, what this means. What is the free market? And I love the, example that you've used, Chris, with the gal who has a Mac laptop and a Frappuccino and a smash capitalism. I mean, it just says, it might as well have said, I don't know what capitalism is, on the bumper sticker. So I just think it's such a cool campaign. I'm so excited to be part of the Policy Center and helping, contribute. Obviously, the younger generation is a target audience, but in my world, Center for Latino Leadership and others, I really want to help make sure that we're exposing this message about what capitalism, what the free market is and does to new audiences all around, and so I'm excited to be, working on some of those things that target the Hispanic community a little bit more. And by target, we really just mean invite, I think. And that's what we have to do. And I'm glad to see that this campaign's doing it.
Well, I'm going to try to share that image that you're talking about, Maia, here in a couple of minutes. I got to see if I can find it. But in the meantime, let's bring in Ryan Green, because Ryan Green is one of the masterminds, I call him, of this particular campaign, because he's the one who knows what to do. I mean, he's the one that's on the social media platforms and can tell us, hey, you're doing something right, or hey, you're doing something wrong. So Ryan, kind of give us an idea of what the results are, if you would.
Yeah, well, first I want to echo what has been said. I think there's a misconception about millennials and Gen Z regarding their beliefs in terms of the free market system. I think there's a disconnect between what they're saying and what's actually happening. I think if you pay attention to actions, the actions are speaking louder than the words in some sense. You see the GameStop sort of phenomenon. That's very much a free market, participating directly in the market. NFTs, blockchain, all of this stuff is creative destruction that's happening. It's being driven by this generation. So I just want to echo what was said. In terms of the campaign itself, I think the confirmation really is in the engagement around the content itself. We've had more than 1 million views on the videos. I think that speaks very strongly to the power of the creative and how effective the creative has been. And the engagement on Facebook itself, we expected, given the research, that there'd be a lot more negative comments coming in, but the comments and engagement have been very positive. And it's been a very positive sort of debate within the comment section. And again, that's always a really strong confirmation of the creative and the overall direction of a campaign, is what the comment section looks like. You know, I think social media can really get off the rails sometimes and become overly negative. We read a lot about that these days. But I think the debates have been fairly positive in the comment section, which speaks to the power of the creative for this campaign.
Absolutely. So Ryan, we have 25,000 plus likes on the page, which is pretty impressive. But, you know, quite frankly, I want to get up to 50,000 or 100,000 likes. So you and I are going to be working together for quite some time. But we also have a number of different videos that we've shared that have really that are really taken off. I mean, they have upwards of 200, 300, 400,000 views, depending on which video we're talking about, obviously. Yep. Shorter versions and longer versions. But the most interesting video is one that we just put out talking about how free markets destroy racism. And I hope everyone has had the chance to go online and see how free markets destroy racism. A lot of people don't realize that there's a great free market story. I'm not going to give it away here because I want you to go look at it. But there's a great free market story about how free markets have destroyed racism in the past. So tell us, Ryan, how those videos are doing, and perhaps if there's any insight you have when you've seen kind of the numbers roll in.
Yeah, those videos are doing extremely well. I think race has sort of been a third rail for the right, and it's been an issue that we've been afraid to explore and really dive into. But in terms of being on the right side of history, I think the right is on the right side when it comes to the issue of race and tolerance and diversity. The video has done extremely well. Again, you know, hundreds of thousands of views on the video itself. Comment section staying pretty healthy and hasn't gone off the rails on us. And to be candid, I was a little hesitant when we were launching it because I was like, we don't know what this is going to do when it goes out into the wild. Again, it's a third rail issue that a lot of us sort of shy away from because it can be a little tough to navigate, especially on social media. But it's performed extremely well, both the long form and the short form version. It's been interesting to see the conversations around the actual brand that's featured in the story. It's kind of funny because the Gen Z audience may not even know about the brand because it no longer exists.
Now, wait a minute. You're making me feel old because I worked there when I was a teenager. So
I used to circle a lot of things in that catalog. So I'm right there with you. But yeah, so I think that was kind of funny to see, was sort of the Gen Z response to it. Obviously, millennials are a little bit more familiar with the brand. And yeah, I mean, you know, Washington State doesn't have the same connection to the brand as Illinois does. And so that was another sort of wild card of seeing how, you know, people in the state reacted. But it's been overall, it's been positive. So it's been cool to see.
Well, we've teased it enough. So if you're not familiar with what brand we're talking about, then shame on you. But go on to YouTube or go on to Facebook and click on the Free Markets Destroy campaign, and you'll be able to see what we're referring to. But hopefully, some of the clues brought you there. All right, so I'm going to. This is what Maia was talking about earlier, and I'm going to kind of zoom out here so everyone can see this wonderful picture that it kind of just puts a cap on what we're talking about. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more on the actual computer itself. So as you can see, smash capitalism and all of these different stickers. And of course, she didn't want to cover up the Apple logo because that would send the wrong message. Got to keep that Apple logo out. And then kind of let's go down here and look in the corner, and there's her Starbucks cup as well. So it kind of shows you, Marissa, what we're dealing with here, where people say, get rid of capitalism while at the same time using capitalism. And you're still on mute, Marissa.
Muted again. Sorry, everyone. Yes, no, I completely agree, and I'm not that far removed from college myself, and having been on those campuses. I mean, this is regular sighting. This is not uncommon. So I think it really it's a signal to us how much room there is, a good soil to till to come in and kind of say, hey, like, let's present markets in this way, and as forces of creative destruction, as things that really are revolutionary and can help and in fact spearhead the actualization of this change that these generations so desperately want to see. So I think that they're at first blush, it's kind of a discouraging picture. It's kind of like, oh, we want to tear our hair out a little bit, but I actually think there's some hope in it, and an indicator to us of dialogues that we can have.
Well, and Ryan, I want to come back to you with a question. So maybe I'll give you a kind of a heads up on the question before I talk to Maia, and that is, what kind of other campaigns are out there that are similar to this? What's worked, what hasn't in your experience? So Ryan, I'll get to you in a second, but Maia, for people who don't know much about the campaign, you can go to freemarketsdestroy.com. There are 6 topics there, ranging from climate change to racism to boredom, all these different things. But from your perspective, what's a different topic that perhaps we need to expand upon in future years?
Well, I think you have so many to choose from, which is part of, the problem is deciding on which to choose from. But, I really am a big fan of what's happening now. So I know we've got disease on there, and that was, that's very timely. For me, education is important. That's one of those that's already on there. I think probably, well, we have the environment on there, but there's a lot of policy conversation right now going on around, specifics about environmental policies. So I wonder if there's something in there, because that is one issue that we know that this particular generation, it is a little bit more concerned about than I think, previous generations. And I think, there is a misconception that, that all millennials are somehow, left, leaning, but really, I think on some of these issues like climate change or just environmental change, they're very concerned, for legitimate reasons. And, as a mom myself, I'm concerned, of course, we want clean air and water for future generations. And it's not so much a conversation about how much it's going to cost, but what's the smart way to do it? And of course, our own Todd Myers has some great research on the right ways to do it, the better ways to do it, the more cost-effective ways to do it. So I wonder if there's something in that subject that we could do more with.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, what about the other campaigns? You've been involved in a lot of different things. What have you seen that has worked? Perhaps what have you seen that has not worked? And just so everyone knows, we're going to share a screenshot of the website right now, so you can see what you're looking for when you go online.
I think obviously this campaign has been extremely effective, like I mentioned earlier, just because of the sort of very different approach to the creative. We've seen campaigns like this fail, where I would say, I'm trying to navigate without speaking ill of certain brands, but I think that there are groups around that exist entirely to target or reach quote unquote millennials. But if you dig into the actual membership of the audience of these groups that are claiming to target those young people, their actual audience is 55 and above. And I think they sort of inadvertently play into stereotypes of conservatives, and that mostly the negative stereotypes of conservatives. I think it's unfortunate that, for example, the whole vaccine debate has become so politicized, because to me, it speaks to the extreme power of the free market. The fact that we went from zero solution to a vaccine in the time period that we did, and our country is sort of leading the way on that. And in terms of environmental issues, right, you have Elon Musk, who's now become sort of like this hero of millennials, right? And Tesla, I mean, you want to talk about creative destruction and what they're doing in the auto industry. I think it's been really amazing to see. So I think this campaign is unique just because the approach going in was, how can we be different? How can we add value? How can we do something that, again, creative destruction, right? Some people would probably look at this campaign and say, it's not strong enough on right-leaning messaging. We're not hitting the talking points aggressively enough. And I think that that's a trap that a lot of people fall into is, they feel like they really have to nail the right-leaning talking points. And at that point, you're going to lose folks if you're too aggressive with that. So I've been really excited about this campaign because I think it is unique in terms of how it's positioning itself.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about the fact that this was a campaign that we launched, of course, here in Washington State and as part of the Washington Policy Center. In this coming year, I'm pleased to be able to announce that we are going to be partnering with many other state think tanks to bring free markets destroyed to the other states as well. So it will not just be a Washington State campaign, it will be a national campaign. In many ways, as Ryan knows, we've been able to target a lot of national folks, but really 2022 is going to be the year where we take it into overdrive and let the other state think tanks also jump into the bit of the action. Somewhat related to that is a project that Maia has been working on with our website, and maybe she can take a minute to explain what she's been doing and why it's going to be so important to have that new part of our website in the coming months.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've recently been able to help with is, for starters, translating the Free Markets Destroyed website into Spanish. Again, this is more, I think, an invitation to new audiences, more so than a placate kind of, I used to just despise Hispandering, for example. It just horrible. So translating was really the first component of reaching out to this new audience. One of the things that we did when we were trying to, translate this website is also interpret some of the cultural, kind of nuances that go with it. There's also, of course, free markets destroy and free markets have a unique translation in English that in Spanish, could mean different things. One of the first things I heard about was, the free trade agreement between Canada, North America, and Mexico is essentially, what the Spanish translation for free markets means. So we had to do a little bit of work around, really being conscious about who this audience is, what they, interpret from this, and how can we then, remind this audience, which by and large is immigrating to the US for free market purposes. And I think, just culturally, this demographic, whether it's, Mexican, Latin American, or any type of Spanish speaking, individual, they are coming to the United States for that opportunity. And so to be able to highlight, all of the things, all of the reasons why America has been so successful in such a short amount of time, I think it's going to be really, eye-opening, exciting, for this audience. And I can just tell you that the folks that I worked with to help do this translation were really excited reading this content. And it's because it's so, digestible for that younger generation, makes it a lot easier to explain simply in Spanish. Nothing worse than trying to get too technical, in a foreign language. So I'm really excited to launch that.
The interesting thing, Maia, is that the organization that the business that we worked with to create the website, as Ryan knows, is from New Zealand. And they had the same reaction when they were putting together some of the graphics and reading some of the text that we sent them. They were like, wait a minute, this is an argument that I've never heard before. And it's not as if New Zealand is the capital of capitalism. Right. They certainly are not. But still, these are arguments. We're hearing the same thing over and over again. These are arguments that people have never heard before. And that's really powerful when you hear that type of thing. So a couple of notes to Maia's point about the translation. One of the first states, or in this case, territories, that is actually joining us in this effort is the Puerto Rico Institute for Economic Liberty. And we're really excited about that. They're a brand new state think tank down in Puerto Rico. They're going to be jumping on board. We have other states as well that are going to be jumping on board. So pay extra close attention to that when we announce it and roll it out here in the next few months. We're really excited about that particular effort. Also, as Ryan and everyone on the call knows, you have the chance to get some Free Market Destroy merchandise. So I know Christmas is over, but maybe your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter didn't really like that bird sweater that you got them. You can go on to our website, or you can go on to Facebook on the Free Markets Destroy site on Facebook, and you can order merchandise that says Free Markets Destroy climate change or Free Markets Destroy this. And there's also a Blockbuster video one that says the end is just the beginning. So great opportunity to get on there, get some merchandise, get some swag. We're getting reports from Tennessee and of course Washington and all over the country, people wearing this merchandise to their grocery store or to the gas station or a bar or whatever, and it spurs a conversation. So we'd encourage you to go on there, and proceeds for that merchandise actually go right back into funding the campaign. So you are helping us out when you do that. Before we wrap up here, Ryan, any last thoughts here on the effort moving forward and maybe ways we can tweak it to make it even better?
I think really doubling down on what works. I think using real world examples like the one included in the Free Markets Destroy Racism video is again another unique approach to this. We're not hitting people with research or facts or figures. We're taking real life examples of how the free market is improving lives and showing people what that looks like. I'm also glad you brought up the swag point about the campaign. I think again that's something that's unique, is really designing sort of wearable billboards for people to be out and promoting the campaign itself. And I love the creative that we put together for it. I'm a little biased, obviously, for having been part of it, but the Blockbuster t-shirt and the Zuckerberg shirt are two of my favorite things that we've ever been part of producing. So highly recommend everyone grabs one of those and stays tuned for the new content coming out in the future.
And one of the questions was about other states picking this up. So hopefully everyone heard that. We're really excited about that particular effort. So Maia, Marissa, Ryan, thank you very much for taking the time today. We certainly appreciate it. And Ryan, I don't know if you guys have snow there in Illinois, but we're buried here. So take care, and we will see you again soon.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
That is the conclusion of this part of the Solution Summit, where we were talking about Free Markets Destroy. Again, if you want to have more information about Free Markets Destroy, go to freemarketsdestroy.com, or just go on to Facebook, search for Free Markets Destroy. It'll come up right there. And Dave, I know you and I have been working on this campaign as well, and it's just been a terrific effort. And I'm excited about the future of it.
It's exciting to see other states pick it up. I think that'll help the organic spread. And look, I mean, our message is a message for everybody. So at Washington Policy Center, our research is laid out for free at washingtonpolicy.org. We try to get that information out to as many people as possible. We don't limit it, and we want to spur debate and conversation. And so you've spearheaded this campaign, and it's gone far and wide, and look forward to it expanding into Spanish and especially Puerto Rico. That'll be fun to see.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that, Chris.
Thanks very much, Dave, and thank you again to everyone who's tuned into the Solution Summit. And I'll turn it over to you to wrap things up.
Sure. One of the things to think about today is the fact that we call this Solution Summit because we try and offer solutions. And some of the exciting things that you heard today and yesterday were about making things better in Washington State, not just what we're against, like new taxes. We don't want a new income tax, but also, that this state is poised for a tax relief, that a sales tax cut is not only possible, but it should be probable, that the case for it is overwhelming and should be compelling, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum. We've provided information about environmental management that should be able to improve how Washington State deals with its environmental resources, to utilize our limited resources better in order to get better environmental results, much better, and that can be an exciting thing. So we've laid out some transportation alternatives that would give people more mobility, more flexibility, and in some cases at a lower cost. And so and retain that independence of movement that is necessary in order to move up the economic ladder. So Washington Policy Center is about hope. It's about providing better alternatives and reminding people that there are alternatives out there. And there won't be that debate about ideas without organizations like Washington Policy Center. And in Washington State, we are that organization that brings up these ideas, advocates for those ideas, and gives the alternatives that we think improve lives through free market solutions. We hope that you'll be a part of that. So if you're excited about these ideas, we hope that you'll share them. We hope that you'll bring them to other people. And most of all, look, with the Seahawks, people get excited and they say they want to be part of the 12s and they want to get louder. So what do? They join up and they're part of that megaphone, that voice. Same with Washington Policy Center. The more members we have, the more people that come on board, the more people that join Washington Policy Center and assist our efforts, the louder our voice gets. The more we can amplify our ideas, the more we can spread those ideas and share those ideas, and support the research of the Senate directors that you've seen here today. I hope that you'll keep that in mind and make the decision today to support Washington Policy Center, to go to washingtonpolicy.org, go to the donation page, become a member, and keep in mind the people, the friends, the family members, the coworkers that you know, and turn them on to Washington Policy Center and encourage them to be a member as well and to be a part of that megaphone. And, again, the entirety of what you see today will be on our YouTube channel, and yesterday. The Solution Summit will be available. We'll cut it up to the panels so that people can see the parts that are of most interest to them. You'll be able to share that information with others. We hope you'll check out the blog throughout the legislative session. We do a lot of breaking news, a lot of breaking analysis, and key things happen. And it happens really fast during the legislative session. So be sure to check out washingtonpolicy.org every day. And when you do, every time you do, think about how you can support Washington Policy Center and encourage friends and others to do so as well, so that we can amplify this voice and this perspective in Washington State and make this place a better place to live, to raise a family, and for the lives that it impacts. We appreciate you coming on board, being a part of the Solution Summit, and we hope to see you again at future Washington Policy events. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you soon.